This time around, we're going to go directly to Chicago, right to the trading floor, and find out from the source what the traders are talking about today. We have Scott Gecas standing by. He's with the Fox Group in Chicago, and he joins us now to take a look first at our grain market action. Scott, has it been fairly quiet there today on the trading floor?
Pretty quiet. The only thing that's really rocking and rolling is the euro-dollar pit, just because all the Brexit going back and forth. But as far as the grain goes, it's really quiet. Everyone's focusing on this coronavirus and how it's going to affect demand across the board, not necessarily just in the grains, but just all the way across the board. You're looking downtrends in oil, all the grains. And if what really sparks my interest is you see the Dow down about 500 points or so, and gold's really not having that big of a reaction. So what that tells me is this might be a little bit overdone. So we're going to have to keep an eye on what the headlines are going to come out this weekend. But right now, everyone's focusing on the coronavirus and how it's going to affect pretty much everything.
You're right. As of now, the Dow looks like it's down about 507 points, making some people a little nervous out there. Let's take a look here at the corn market first, and we'll get everybody updated on prices. On the corn, we are still 2 1/4 higher. Last trade, 381 3/4. It's been fairly quiet, but the nearbys have been leading the small rally that we have seen today. And moving on to December, it's up 3/4. Now, what about on soybeans? Soybeans, they're making small losses today. We have March down 1.5 pennies, and we're at 874 3/4. On the wheat market in Chicago, we have that March contract quoted at 557.5. So the weakness continuing in the wheat. It's down 3 cents, and in Kansas City on that March contract, it is trading 4 lower at 467, and I believe that's testing the 50-day moving average. Kind of similar action, I believe, in the Minneapolis wheat. I think it's also testing some technical support. It's currently down about 2 1/4 at 534 1/4. You know, you were talking about Brexit, and that goes into effect at midnight in Britain. So what is going to be the effect of that? I mean, I know they're going to pursue some trade deals. Is there an agricultural component to that we could benefit from?
It really depends on what is going to come out in the text that's being released. So, yes, they have some trade deals going back and forth, but what is going to affect one or the other? Again, it's all going to determine what's going to come out in the text. The biggest problem with the Brexit right now is just the labor issues going back and forth. So if they get that resolved, we could see a little bit more exports to Britain, but we have to wait and see what is going to really come out of that text.
All right, and of course, I want to remind everybody, we did have an overnight sale of corn to South Korea, but it has kind of an asterisk on it just because it was quoted as actually optional origin, as they say, so we don't really know for sure if we're going to get it, and fingers crossed that we do. We can sure use that business. We'll come back here in a moment, and Scott, we'll talk about the livestock trade as we head toward the weekend. We're talking with Scott Gecas of the Fox Group. We'll be back right after these messages. Well, in case you missed it, earlier this morning, USDA came out with what they call their midday updates on their cutout values, and it relates to the beef and the pork side. And we can take another look at that in case you didn't get that a little bit ago. On the beef cutouts, we had the choice cuts going down just a penny. Only a penny is the change. 213.34 per hundredweight was our last quote. Now, your select cuts came in there at 210.90. The spread widened out a little bit. That was down 58 cents on the day. The spread now stands at $2.44 there. Looking at the pork cutouts, of course, at times during this past week, we have had some steep declines in the wholesale pork trade values. Well, this morning they're mixed. We have carcass values down 8 cents. We're at 70.82. Loins are up $1.05 today at 69.89. The hams are up 8 cents. And bellies are down 3.61 on the midday update. As we look at our futures on the live cattle board so far today, as we remember, we have that big report coming out after the close. We have April live cattle now turning lower again. Here we go again with this yo-yo trade, Scott. We have the April live cattle quoted 15 lower at 120.05. Kind of reminds me of yesterday where it kept bouncing around on either side of unchanged. If we look at the feeder cattle market right now, here you have the March, now 55 higher at 136.20. The far out deferreds, August and September, which had been way over $1 higher, are now up 83 cents and 92 cents, respectively. If you look at our lean hog trade, lean hogs were lock limit down on the close yesterday. We are down $3 again on the February. April down $3.48. How are they able to do that? Well, we're in expanded limits today. We're now at $62.35. That nearby February now under $60 by quite a bit. So let's go back to Scott Gecas. And Scott, on the cattle market, it looks like traders were a little nervous ahead of that big inventory report coming out this afternoon.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons going back and forth with that. And so, number one, you have the coronavirus. Everyone's expecting it to affect the restaurant business as well as the travel business. But the biggest thing that sparks my attention with the cattle market is we've seen the 119 cash trade level. It was a little light around 119, but if you put it in a context from last week around 124, that's a considerable amount of drop. So with the funds being net long, we expect to see a little bit of stronger liquidation. Hasn't really happened that much just yet. I think we're going to be waiting for that number this afternoon. But if that number this afternoon is a little disappointing, I expect to see a lot of downside pressure come Monday. But we're going to have to see. The coronavirus going into the weekend is a huge deterrent with anybody taking any type of long position because of this virus is spreading so fast that we don't know what is going to come out. So earlier in the week when the virus started to break, it was no concerns whatsoever. So on Monday, it was no concerns. Going into today, it's a worldwide epidemic. So it's definitely spreading. It's not controlled. It's just how bad of the spread is it going to take between now and the open on Sunday night.
Absolutely.
So that's what all these markets are going to be focusing on.
Very good information. Thank you, Scott, for visiting with us. Scott Gecas of the Fox Group in Chicago.